don't you wish you had dance moves like Sage and Kaylee? Those were awesome. Well, hey, my name's Tyler, and this month our church is going through a series of Advent. Advent means arrival, appearance, official visit. And we're taking the whole month to remember Jesus' first arrival and to prepare for his second arrival. In this Advent, we're going to look at some of the characters of Christmas. But real quick, as the ladies highlighted, we're trying to have some Christmas parties this year. And so we want you to host. We want 100 Christmas parties by River Valley families. And so if that's something you think you can do to help create some God space in your neighborhood, build some relationships, we want to know about it. Write on the Connect card, say who you are and that you're hosting a Christmas party or you plan to. And if you put the menu on there, I might even show up, It's some real good options there. Well, we know there are some characters who don't like Christmas parties. In our favorite Christmas stories, there are always bad guys, villains, enemies. Maybe the most famous of which is the Grinch. Blast this Christmas music. It's joyful and triumphant. Hate, hate, hate. Double hate, loathe entirely. Who feels the same about Christmas music? You don't want to admit it. Ebenezer Scrooge. He famously complains, if I could work my will, every idiot who goes about with Merry Christmas on his lips should be boiled with his own pudding and buried with a stake of holly through his heart. Bah humbug. I forgot how violent that guy sounds. Such violence. Then there's Miles Finch, fleecing money from little children's books, telling Buddy, call me elf one more time. And what does Buddy say? He's an angry elf. Then there's Old Man Potter from It's a Wonderful Life, who says, George, I'm an old man and most people hate me, but I don't like them either. So it makes it all even. Interesting calculations there. But my personal favorite villains are Marv and Harry from the Home Alones. Merry Christmas, little fella. We know you're in there and you're all alone. Right before Kevin cocks his BB gun. And today we're going to look at some of the adversaries of Advent, enemies of the first Christmas. Now you might be thinking, who in the world would be opposed to cute, cuddly baby Jesus? The answer might surprise you. So today we're going to look at that there are adversaries to Advent, who they are, and how to not be one. That there are adversaries to Advent, who they are, and how to not be one. So first, that there are adversaries to Advent. I think the old prophet Simeon summarizes this the best. We read about him in Life Group this week. He's a prophet who's hanging out in the temple, waiting for God's promised king. God had somehow revealed to him that he would see the king before he dies. And one day, a young couple walks into the temple, and somehow he knows it's the baby. He knows it's the promised king. And trembling, he walks up to the young mother and asks to hold the baby. And she hands him over, and he praises God and blesses the parents, and then turns to Mary and says this child is destined to cause the falling and rising of many in Israel, so that the thoughts of many hearts will be revealed. And a sword will pierce your own soul too. What is he saying? He's saying this baby is going to lift some people up and tear some people down. Some will rise, some will fall. The battle lines are drawn. Allies and adversaries. But my favorite text illustrating that there are enemies of Christmas is Revelation 12. I wonder if you've ever heard a Christmas sermon from Revelation. Revelation can be a difficult book with all the symbols and signs, but think of the title itself, Revelation. It indicates the book is supposed to be revealing, clarifying, helpful. And the symbols should actually help us in this area. So for example, if I said, that man's a snake, in some ways that's a little more revealing and clarifying than saying, oh, he's manipulative. And there's something about the symbol, the image, that kind of gets into our imagination. It helps us understand the situation symbolically. In Revelation, we might not understand all the details, but actually the big picture becomes really clear. So with that in mind, let's try and visualize what's happening here in Revelation 12:1. a great sign appeared in heaven. A woman clothed with the sun, with the moon under her feet and a crown of 12 stars on her head. She was pregnant and cried out in pain as she was about to give birth. Then another sign appeared in heaven, an enormous red dragon with 7 heads and 10 horns and 7 crowns on its heads. Its tail swept a third of the stars out of the sky and flung them to earth. The dragon stood in front of the woman who was about to give birth so that it might devour her child the moment he was born. She gave birth to a son, a male child, who will rule all the nations with an iron scepter. And her child was snatched up to God and to his throne. This is God's word. So here we have a woman and a dragon. And the woman represents faithful, surviving Israel, with connections to many of the women in Scripture. We think of Eve. We think of Sarah. We think of Jael. She was the lady that killed the general with a tent peg. Cool story, right? We think of Hannah and, of course, Mary. And then, so Lady Israel, she's very pregnant. She's long overdue. She's about to pop, okay? She is many years, thousands of years overdue. And hoping, crying, praying, longing for this future king to finally be born. And the red 7-headed dragon represents every adversary to God, every enemy of what's good. Evil events, evil people, evil spiritual beings, and yes, of course, Satan himself. I really like the image of the monster in Stranger Things, the TV show some of you may have watched, to kind of grip our imagination. It's not a dragon, but it's a monster that really well kind of explains or illustrates chaos. So Lady Israel goes into labor, and she delivers the baby. Mary births Jesus. The dragon shrieks and screams in fear and fury, lunging at the baby to try and kill him. But he is unsuccessful. The child grows and takes his throne in heaven, ruling with a rod of iron. The dragon's days are doomed, but he continues dangerously thrashing and fighting, doing whatever he can. So in other words, the first Christmas is anything but a silent night. All is not calm, all is not bright. Right? Christmas, the first Christmas, is an all-out war, an invasion. This little baby invades the dragon's domain like Normandy. Let's step away from the symbolism to see this actually play out in the Christmas story. So who are the adversaries of Advent? If you're taking notes, first we see the religious leaders. The religious leaders. John 1:11, we read this: Jesus came to his own people, and even they rejected him. It seems that most of Israel's leaders rejected Jesus. We don't get a clear sense of this till later on in the story, but the Christmas story does foreshadow that these guys aren't going to be Jesus' friends. But where do we see this in the Christmas story? So Matthew 2 happens. The Magi show up from the east, and I heard we had one here last week. In the flesh, first person. That was amazing. And so the Magi show up, and they ask where the king's supposed to be born. The religious leaders do their homework. They look up Micah 5:2 and say, oh, Bethlehem. And this should be a really exciting time for these guys. That which has been predicted and prophesied is now happening in their backyard, 6 miles down the hill. And so what do? Nothing. They don't follow the Magi. They don't even go look. We can only read between the lines here, but their response, I think, reflects one of two underlying emotions or feelings here. This could reflect an apathy, kind of a lack of interest. Whatever, we're too busy. We got too much going on. It's just a baby anyway. So it could reflect apathy, or it could reflect fear. If we go down that hill, what will the current king of the Jews think? We might get killed. But both responses demonstrate that they oppose the newborn king. So for example, think of someone invited to the White House, maybe an athlete or an award winner. And sometimes, for whatever reason, these individuals decide not to go. They decline the invitation. And this happened in the Obama administration as well, although not as frequently and publicly as we see today. But if someone declines a White House invitation for whatever reason, they're sending a very clear message. I am against this administration. In the Christmas story, God has invited Israel's leaders to see this newborn king in their own backyard, but they don't go. They decline the invitation. They're against this new administration. And many of these same rulers are going to oppose this new king every step of the way, eventually advocating and carrying out assassination. No, these particular religious leaders are loyal to the current king of the Jews, who is our second adversary to Advent, King Herod. King Herod. Historically, this is Herod the Great. He was paranoid and violent. He does whatever he can to hold on to power. He's like a primitive Hitler or Stalin. His political rivals or even perceived opponents don't last very long, including and especially his family members. For example, his popular brother-in-law, an up-and-coming leader, accidentally drowns in a very shallow pool. Herod kills his favorite wife and 3 sons on bad information. Caesar Augustus once declared, it's better to be Herod's hog than his son. Nice. Having this in the back of your mind, imagine what Herod feels when the Magi show up and say, where's the one who's been born king of the Jews? We've seen his star and have come to worship him. Now we understand verse 3, huh? When King Herod heard this, he was disturbed, and all of Jerusalem with him. No kidding. Everyone in Jerusalem's wondering, what is this crazy dude going to do? But Herod composes himself. He puts on a happy face and tells the Magi, go and search carefully for the child. As soon as you find him, report to me that I may go and also worship him. Everyone in Jerusalem knows this isn't true, but the Magi aren't from around here. Thankfully, God steps in and guides them. Matthew 2:12, after having been warned in a dream not to go back to Herod, they returned to their own country by another route. When they had gone, an angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph in a dream. Get up, he said. Take the child and his mother and escape to Egypt. Verse 16, when Herod realized he had been outwitted by the Magi, he was furious and gave orders to kill all the boys in Bethlehem and its vicinity who were 2 years old and under. One scholar points out that Herod probably murders around 20 to 50 boys in Bethlehem. Horrible, yet not necessarily something that would have made the history books. We only read about this in Matthew. Still, Herod embodies that dragon that we read about earlier. He's trying to kill the baby. He rightly recognizes that this town ain't big enough for the two of us. Jesus is a threat to his throne. Does Herod remind us of any other ancient leaders trying to kill a bunch of baby boys? Pharaoh, trying to cast the babies into the Nile, including future leader Moses. Herod and Pharaoh are what we call archetypes, examples and imitations of the original enemy of God. We run into this character on the 3rd page of the Bible. After sin enters the world, God tells a deceptive serpent, I will put enmity between you and the woman, between your offspring and hers. He will crush your head. You will strike his heel. So God promises that a son will come from the woman, from her line, and this son will crush the serpent's head, something the serpent's not very excited about. And who is this serpent? Revelation 12:9 connects all the characters and connects all the dots for us. Revelation 12:9, the great dragon was hurled down, that ancient serpent called the devil, or Satan, who leads the whole world astray. So the third adversary to Advent, if you're taking notes, is Satan himself. Satan. Now some of you might be thinking, really, Tyler? The guy with red tights and horns and a pitchfork? I don't believe in that guy. Well, I don't think I believe in that guy either. Right? The guy with tights, the devil of Greek mythology or Latin folklore. But the biblical authors really do believe in a character, a spiritual being of evil chaos. And I actually don't think it's that hard to get people to consider, even in a modern 2019 era. For example, I just finished an autobiography by Eva Skolas, Anne Frank's stepsister and Holocaust survivor. And when we read about the Holocaust, when we read about Auschwitz and the work camps and the gas chambers, is it really a stretch to think the evil forces are at work outside of us? I mean, we know humans can be messed up, but is it really that crazy to consider other spiritual forces at work outside of us? You see, the hope of Christmas is that Jesus is going to destroy these forces, bringing peace and freedom. Some of our Christmas carols reflect this sentiment. God rest ye merry gentlemen, let nothing you dismay. Remember Christ our Savior was born on Christmas Day. Why? To save us all from Satan's power when we were gone astray. In second or third verse of O come Emmanuel, O come thou rod of Jesse, free thine own from Satan's tyranny. From depths of hell thy people save and give them victory o'er the grave. Rejoice. These carols reflect what John explicitly says. The reason the Son of God appeared was to destroy the works of the devil. And isn't that good news? Jesus is going to destroy the dragon. He's going to slay the serpent and kill the chaos. It is good news. But there's a problem. Because the fourth and final adversary to Advent is every human heart. Every human heart. You and I are adversaries to Advent. Enemies of Christmas. Now you might be thinking, wait a second, Tyler, you got me all wrong. I love Christmas. I play Christmas music in July. Well, that's its own kind of problem we don't have time to talk about. That's its own kind of chaos. But even if we love the sentiment of the season, every one of us resists Jesus' advent in one way or another. Let me demonstrate. Remember back to Revelation 12:5 when we're told the baby grows to rule the nations with a rod of iron? That's a reference back to Psalm 2, a link, a hyperlink. And Psalm 2 is about the future king. God says, I've installed my king on Zion, my holy mountain. Ask me, and I will make the nations your inheritance, the ends of the earth your possession. You will break them with a rod of iron. You will dash them to pieces like pottery. So what's the psalmist saying? He's saying that Christmas doesn't just mean there's a new king in Israel. No, this king is installed, and he claims the entire earth and everyone within it. He's installed with no electoral college, no popular vote, no consensus. He's chosen, there's a new ruler, a new master, and I'm not him, and I get no say. And a part of me resents that. If you're honest, a part of you resents that. Consider Romans 8:7. For the sinful nature is always hostile to God. It never did obey God's laws, and it never will. In some ways, this feeling is intensified by our American individualism, slow cooked and marinated into all of us with phrases like, we serve no sovereign here. To each his own. Don't tread on me. And no one should tell me how to live my life. But it goes deeper than American individualism too. In a Russian concentration camp, Alexander Solzhenitsyn famously wrote, the line separating good and evil passes not through states, nor between classes, nor between political parties either, but right through every human heart. See, while in prison, Solzhenitsyn looks around very carefully, and he looks within, and he's very disturbed mostly by what he sees within himself. Right? To use the Revelation symbol, Solzhenitsyn would say there's a little bit of that evil dragon in all of us. And I think we all know this to be the case. We can blame others for our behavior, but so often we are a part of the problem. We are the problem. We're the problem Jesus comes to fix. So the bad news, we're all adversaries to Advent in one way or another. Some of us maybe resemble the religious leaders, too busy, uninterested, or preoccupied for Jesus' presence. Some of us resemble Herod, threatened by someone who says, I made you, I own you, and you must listen to me. So our third and final question today is, how do we turn from adversary to ally? How do we not be an adversary to Advent? If that's all of our default condition, how do we get to be an ally? Well, first, we must relinquish control. Relinquish control if you're taking notes. What will a general do if his army is vastly outnumbered? He'll probably surrender. It's the same thing I do now with my little brother. I used to be able to beat him up all the time, but then he joined the service. And so now I just got good at running because that's all I can do. It's like, stay away because he's stronger than me. And Psalm 2 gives us that same warning. Therefore, you kings, be wise. Be warned, you rulers of the earth. Serve the Lord with fear and celebrate his rule. Trembling, kiss his son, or he will be angry, and your way will lead to destruction, for his wrath can flare up in a moment. Blessed are all who take refuge in him. So as we come up against this superior force, as we come up against this superior person, Jesus, we can ignore, run, or resist, or we can surrender. I have to wonder what might have happened if King Herod had read this warning. It's almost tailor-made for him, isn't it? Kings, be warned. Red flag, flashing lights. Rulers, pay attention. What if Herod had taken it to heart? As it is, do you think Herod lived a good, happy, full life? No. You see, not long after trying to kill Jesus, King Herod starts dying an extremely painful and putrefying death. Multiple times he tries to kill himself. He's plagued by depression and paranoia. He worries that no one will mourn his death. No kidding. And so what he does with this fear that no one's going to mourn his death is he commands the execution of many popular people on his deathbed so that the displays of grief that he wants will happen and not celebrations. Thankfully, when he dies, his kids do not carry out the order. Herod is an extreme example, but his way led to destruction. Herod is like that pottery that's shattered, like a coffee cup dropped on kitchen tile. Herod is that extreme example, but he's also a warning. James sums it up really well when he says, God resists the proud, but gives grace to the humble. Herod will not bow, but others will. Herod will not humble himself, but will you? The psalmist tells us to kiss the Son, an image of surrender and humility. I actually think of the Magi who probably literally did this. I picture these travelers kneeling down and literally kissing the forehead of baby Jesus in a just profound sense of reverence and wonder and humility. That posture of bent knees and open arms that says, God, I am yours. Jesus, I'm yours. My life is yours. I belong to you. I trust you. And humility and service isn't just for our lives and the big things. It's also for the little details this holiday season. The little things. I mean, do you know the definition of expectations? Planned resentments, right? The definition of expectations are planned resentments. If we try and control everything, environments, experiences, gift giving, family members, if we expect perfection, we're going to be resentful. But if we let these expectations go and simply enjoy the season and the Savior, I think we're going to have more peace. And relinquishing control isn't just an obligation. It's a gift. How so? We weren't meant to carry that weight. Isn't it exhausting to try and be God? Who's tried to be God before? Just me. All right. Great night. Some of you are lying. It's exhausting to try and carry that weight. To try and do what only he can do. To try and be what only he can be. Right? To try and make my own meaning. How fatiguing. No, relinquish control and find peace this holiday season. Secondly, receive Jesus as a gift. We turn from adversary to ally by receiving Jesus as a gift. John 1:11, he came to that which was his own, but his own did not receive him. Yet to all who did receive him, to those who believed in his name, he gave the right to become children of God. What's John saying here? Not only is Jesus the king to the world, he's also the gift to the world, the greatest gift. We might think it strange that God gives us gifts. We feel like we should be giving him gifts. He deserves it all, and we don't deserve very much. And yet, our faith, Christianity, is not based on God's gift to not based on our gifts to God, but it's based on his gift to us. His son given for us. His love for us. We love because he first loved us. We serve because he first served us. Yeah. And so I have a question for you. Have you received Jesus? Have you received this free gift? Have you believed in his name? Are you a child of God? And if not, what's holding you back? Why will you not open this free gift given to you? Today could be the day that you turn from adversary to son, from enemy to daughter. And it's not, again, through giving God good gifts or good deeds or cleaning up our lives. We receive Jesus by simply having the Magi's posture. Jesus, I receive you. I submit to you. I need your free gift of forgiveness on the cross. Save me from my sins and make me a new person. The cool thing about the gift of Jesus is it's not just a one-time gift. It's a gift we get to enjoy over and over and over again. If we're not enjoying Jesus this season, we're not doing the season right. Preach the good news to yourself. Sing the good news to yourself and your family this season. Third and finally, the last way to stay an ally and not be an adversary of Advent is to reflect on his return. Reflect on his return. See, Advent, Christmas is not just about remembering the baby Jesus coming the first time. It's about thinking forward to when Jesus returns again. We don't know when that's going to be, but we're waiting for that day. 4 times in the book of Revelation, Jesus says, I am coming soon. I'm coming soon. Not as a baby the second time around, but as a victorious king. I once saw a t-shirt that said, Jesus is coming, everybody look busy. And that obviously kind of misses the point a little bit, but what I like about it is it gives us a sense that Jesus is coming back, and that should change the way we're living. It should change your perspective. Does Jesus' return change the way we deal with stress, anxiety, and anger this month? Does it change how much money we spend this month? Does it change our plans? Would Jesus' return mess up our plans? Are we ready for him? Waiting with open arms, eagerly longing for his appearing, like the Apostle Paul. And I confess that before this sermon, I didn't often think about Jesus' return. It's still a struggle. I mean, when life's comfortable, I think it's easy to just be so invested in our own thing and our own kingdom. At least it is for me, that it's hard to remember this. It's like being overly concerned with the construction of sand castles on low tide. High tide is coming. And it's tragic to think that so much energy is invested into sand castles, things that aren't going to last. Excessive concern about appearance, retirement, reputation, fitness, sports, yard maintenance, car maintenance, money, politics, collections, getting people to like us, our social media presence. All these things are not bad things. They're just simply sand castles. We should ruthlessly evaluate everything in light of Jesus' return. When he comes back, I want to be working for him. Let's close with this illustration. When I was younger, and this may be a surprise to a lot of you, but I got in a lot of trouble. I know you're all very surprised. If I did something mean, like maybe throw something at Nicole or steal Cody's Legos, my mom would say something like, wait till your father gets home. Right? I dreaded the impending spanking. Now, I got the second most swats out of all of us 4 siblings. I don't want to give number 1 away, but her initials are Natalie Goens. All right? My dad never disciplined out of anger. He didn't love me any less on the bad days. But I was still not very excited about his return on those days because I was out of step with his loving expectations for me. But if I kept my Father's return in mind and was doing what he wanted me to do, then I couldn't wait for his return. Because when he came home, we'd get to go play hide and seek or go wrestle or, go for a bike ride. No disappointment, no shame, no broken relationship. And I think this is the sense behind what John says in 1 John 2:28. So now, little children, remain in him, so that when he appears, we may have confidence and not be ashamed before him at his coming. You see, if you've received Jesus and you're in God's family, you have nothing to fear in regards to punishment. Okay? There's no need to fear punishment when Jesus returns, but we should have a healthy concern for Jesus' evaluation of our lives. Are we active in the things that make him happy? Are we treating our siblings well? Are we investing in his kingdom? Let me read a prayer for us. Let's pray as the worship team comes back up.